I'm not teaching, I'm publicly learning, but hi and welcome to Learning for the Life in the UK Test Part 20, War at Home and Abroad Part 4, that is page 17, while doing leg stability training. Participating in the exercises is at your own risk, and we will focus mostly on war at home and abroad for learning of the life in the UK test instead of doing proper leg stability training. We just were that war was not only fought at home. For example, when King Edward I declared that Scotland and Wales was a part of, in the Statute of Rutland, and was a part of England, and that were battles fought, and they wanted to maintain, and it was also successfully maintain their power in Wales through the castles Conway and Carnarvon. And they also fought in the Battle of Bannockburn against the Scottish led by Robert the Bruce in 1314, where they were defeated and Scotland remained free of the English rule. And they held the Irish king with troops, and they even stayed with troops. And by around 1200, many important lords of Ireland accepted the English king as the authority. And that many knights of England took part in the Crusades. They are many Christian motivated, but they had multiple different motives to go to the Holy Land. To go to the Holy Land, so the region of today's Israel, Syria, Yemen, and the Middle East basically, and to conquer them and to bring them under their control, which we all actually did, and they ruled there in the Kingdom of Jerusalem for over a century and so on. But they were eventually more or less defeated. I don't know how it really happened. It happens over a decade, and it didn't happen at once. But that's not really part of it here. We spent just one sentence on it. But the Islamic expansion happened, and also there was not so much people coming, and the Crusades more or less proved unsuccessful, what I now say as a conclusion of it. Even though there was a reign for a few centuries, the people did not really want to continue them. There were around 10 big ones or something, and every few decades they happened. They were more or less successful. Many of them were not successful. All of them had one in common, that they were very brutal and many people died, oftentimes in a very brutal manner. But they were not really continued then after, I think around 1200, 1300 was the last one or something like that. So let's take that sentence, all what we have to know about them. For everything you need to study for the British citizenship test, all what you need to know according to them. If there's maybe there's something to the Crusades said later, but at least for here that is enough. Many knights took part in the Crusades, in which European Christians fought for control of the Holy Land. So it is all. We don't have to know anything more specific about what brutalities might have happened there. English kings also fought a long war with France. We know something about France. We know that in France and northeast is Bordeaux, a city, and that there exists a tapestry with an embroidery of the Battle of Hastings from 1066, which is a 17-meter long tapestry, the Bordeaux tapestry, and in which is depicted the Battle of Hastings, in which William, the Duke of Normandy, defeated Harold the Saxon king, who died in the battle, and William became William the Conqueror and the English king. And because we haven't mentioned that, oftentimes William the Conqueror sent out people into the English regions to list what towns and villages were there, and who had what animals, and who owned what land, and also first thing, who lived there, who owned the land, and what animals they owned. In the Domesday Book, I don't know how it's pronounced, in the Domesday Book. And that book helps us to for us to have a picture of life shortly after the Norman conquest in England. Now, English kings also fought a long war with France. Yes, from France, when we were coming the Norman France, and they brought with them William Duke of Normandy, William the Conqueror, brought with him the Norman French, and it was spoken in the ruling class, and it had a great influence on the modern English Norman French. English knights also fought a long war with France called the 100 Years' War, even though it actually lasted 116 years. And we have a little bit more to the 100 Years' War, so I'm not going to spend telling anything about it. There was a 116 years long, 100-year-long war. The France which today now is not so much in a 116-year war constricted. Today, France and England are thinking about that France is lending the Bordeaux tapestry to Britain, that it can be displayed in Britain, and people in Britain can visit with 70 meter long tapestry. Because today France and England are friends. Let's start with a warm-up exercise. We're going on. And we're breathing out. So breathe in. And out. And breathe in. And out. Last round, breathe in. Out. And in. And we are closing the legs. Now we're bringing one leg up into the right angle with the leg, flexed foot, even lined hips, tall up with the back, and we're pressing with the hand against the top of the leg, and we're having a little bend in the elbow. Tall up with the back, even aligned hips, little bend in the elbow. And we're changing to the other leg, the leg up, even lined hips, right angle with the leg, flexed foot, even lined hips, tall up with the back, and now we're pressing from the top against the knee. You can put some effort into it if you want, you can do it forcefully, but we are not really warmed up just after a little exercise to do that now with full force. Just give some good pressure onto the knee. Some effort, but don't do it. And we're going on with the next exercise. Same setup, and now we're pressing on the inside. Right angle with the leg, flexed foot, even aligned hips, tall up the back, little bend in the elbow, and we're pressing from the inside. And we're switching, now with the other leg. And when we're going on, the last of these exercises, leg up, right angle with the leg, flexed foot, even lined hips, tall up with the back, and we press from the top, from the side, top, from the side. The knee presses to the top. Some of the hand. It's not a problem, but it's a more effective exercise if the knee does the work. Now with the other leg, same setup, and I'm saying it again, that gives us time to get the proper setup. Right angle with the leg, flexed foot, even lined hips, tall up with the back, and the knee presses up and to the side. The knee presses up, the knee presses to the side. And interchange that pressure distribution. And we're done with this exercise. So many kings fought with France in the 100 years wars, which lasted actually 116 years. One of the most famous battles of the 100 years war was the Battle of Agincourt. That is a French name, I'm pretty sure, so I don't know how it's pronounced. Agincourt in 1415, where King Henry V's vastly outnumbered English army defeated the French. Okay, let's first recapitalize what battles we had. We have now the Battle of Agincourt in 1415, but let's do it at the end so that we can look what happened there. We had the Battle of Bannockburn 1314, where the Scottish under Robert the Bruce defeated the English under, no, we don't know under whom. We don't know under whom. The English kings defeated the English. We don't know who was the reigning monarch in 1314 in England. Robert the Bruce defeated the English in the Battle of Bannockburn in 1314. We have the Battle of Hastings in 1066, in which William the Duke of Normandy defeated Harold the Saxon king and became William the Conqueror. And we have, well, you have a little mentioning that Boudicca, the queen of the Iceni tribe, fought against the Roman invasion in 43, and that Julius Caesar was not successful in 55 before Christ. But that are not battles, so we don't know of any more battles. We just had 2 battles? That's just the third one? I guess that's the third battle. So that third battle, that was one of the most famous battles of 100 years. The war was the Battle of Agincourt in 1415. So in 1415 that was the great battle of Agincourt, one of the most famous of the 100 Years' War, which lasted 160 years. Where King Henry V, so we now have King Henry V, we had King Alfred the Great, he unified the Anglo-Saxon kingdoms, and we had Edward I, who made in the statutes of Rutland in 1284 Wales is a part of England, and he had two castles built, Conway and Carnival. Carnival and Conway. Conway. And now we have a Battle of 1415, Battle of Agincourt, one of the most famous of the 100 Years' War, in which King Henry V, vastly outnumbered English army, defeated the French. So it means outnumbered means he had not as many troops. His army was outnumbered, so the French had way more people, and it was vastly. So King Henry V had way less people in his army, had way less soldiers. Soldier is technically a fixed term, so it doesn't have to be technically all the soldiers, but so he had less people in his army. He was vastly outnumbered. And he defeated then, with his army, the French. So even though King Henry V had less people, he defeated the French in the Battle of Agincourt, one of the most famous battles of the 100 Years' War, which lasted 116 years between England and France. The English largely left France in the 1450s. Have you read really correctly? One of the most famous battles of the 100 Years' War was the Battle of Agincourt in 1415, where King Henry V's vastly outnumbered English army defeated the French. Yes, the English won, even though there were less people. That's what sense me. And the English then left. That's a pretty big jump from we have won, even though we were outnumbered, to that they then left France in 1450. In the 1450s, whatever. The English left France in the 1450s. Let's end the leg stability training with placing one hand on the tummy and one on the leg, and bringing one leg up. The leg is straight, and we're having a flexed foot. If the quad muscle cramps, bring it up and point the foot. Now bring the leg up and have a straight leg and a flexed foot, and yes, even line dips also. And control that you don't go back with the hands on tummy and lower back. And try to bring the leg higher. And higher, a bit longer, with my foot, and now up. And we're pointing my foot. And now with the other leg, the leg up. The leg is straight, the foot is flexed, the hips are even aligned, and we're having one hand on tummy and one on back, and controlling with our hands. But we are not falling back, and we're trying to bring the leg higher. And now we bring the leg up and stretching it up. And now we are ending a very short leg stability training. Let's calm down. Breathing in. And by breathing out. And again. And out. And we're closing the legs. And we have a little bit time left to go fast about the part 4 and the conclusion of War at Home and Abroad. It's way too much for 2 minutes. So the Middle Ages were from 476 until 1485. The fall of the Western Roman Empire initiated these Middle Ages. And the English under King Edward I declared in 1284 in the Suits of Rutland that Wales is a part of Scotland. They made two castles, Conway and Carnival, to maintain their power over Wales, which they then had in the middle of the 15th century. And they were not so successful in Scotland. The army under Robert Bruce defeated at the Battle of Billock in 1314 the English. And Ireland was mostly independent, but the English came with their troops to help the Irish king, and they then stayed. And by around 1200, in an area called Pale, near Dublin, around Dublin, where the English ruled an area of Ireland known as Pale around Dublin, and the important lords of Ireland accepted the English king as authority in Ireland, and many knights took part in the Crusades to the Holy Land. And there was the 100 Years' War, which lasted for 116 years with France. And one of the most famous battles is the Battle of Agincourt in 1415. And there the vastly outnumbered troops of King Henry V defeated the French, but even though they made that famous outcome of the Battle of Agincourt in 1415, they left in the 1450s France. So thank you very much, and until next time.